22 freaking years old. I have a right to stand up for myself if somebody wants to talk shit to me. Now being as I am on parole right now, I can't do that. People got me by the short and curlies on that one. But best believe I won't always be on parole.
How the hell did you manipulate the courts and everyone around you to believe you? And the only way that it's coming out is because you can't lie, girl. You get out and you put your face on this camera and you suck at actually telling the truth. Like, we can see through you. You tell on yourself you're not good. You might be able to manipulate your way through life with some people that ain't got no sense, but girlfriend, I've been to prison. I've been a manipulator. I've been a liar. I know one when I see one.
How does one woman go from a celebrated convict and new social media darling to one of the most hated people on the internet in less than 6 months? How does one woman destroy any goodwill the public felt for her in just 180 days? Gypsy Rose Blanchard's stunning fall from grace began almost immediately after she got out of prison. Welcome back to Becca Scoops. My partner is a veteran detective, and I'm Becca, a former psych and ICU RN. And we're going to bring you the shocking details we've uncovered that caused Gypsy Rose Blanchard to become the most hated woman on social media in 2024. When Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released from prison on December 28, 2023, immediately she was celebrated on social media.
You're free.
Free. Ooh, this car is going really fast.
She's free, y'all. She's finally free. Ms. Blanchard was finally released from prison yesterday after serving 85% of her sentence.
What many in the public didn't know was that Gypsy had been working with Lifetime producer Melissa Moore, who approached Blanchard in prison after the HBO documentary, Mommy Dead and Dearest, aired, hoping to wrangle the female felon to do additional content about her life and crime. For background on Moore, see our video titled Gypsy's Disturbing Relationship with Hollywood Mystery Woman. Moore is the daughter of the Happy Face Killer, a serial rapist and murderer. Moore used her infamous clout as his daughter and styled herself as a journalist and a survivor of trauma. Moore also used her relationship with Dr. Phil and Oprah to convince Gypsy to sign a deal for books and a Lifetime reality series. Gypsy was Moore's golden goose. Together, Blanchard and Moore had meticulously planned this moment for years, the moment Gypsy was released from prison for maximum exposure. Here's YouTube channel Conspiracy reporting on the Gypsy craze on social media at that time.
TikTok especially exploded with videos in support of Gypsy, with one trending sound in particular which has videos like this. Lots of small businesses adapting to a trend, lots of people planning fake Gypsy release parties. This especially concerning one. I think you get the point. There are tons.
Gypsy exits prison on 12/28, and right after we ring in 2024, the new year, Gypsy embarks on a glitzy media tour to promote her ebook that Moore co-wrote titled Released: Conversations on the Eve of Freedom, which hits the internet on January 9th. At the same time, Moore's other big Gypsy project for Lifetime, called The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, begins to air on January 5th, and that's when Blanchard's social media really begins to blow up.
Just one day later, on January 1st, she had 6 million followers. 4 days later, on January 5th, she had 7 million followers. January 7th, 8.3, and January 26th, 9.9.
Moore had inserted herself into Gypsy's life way back in 2018. And over those 5 years, Moore spoke to Gypsy weekly, convinced Blanchard to cash in with book deals and the Lifetime series. Moore groomed her into believing she could redeem herself and shed her skin as a murderer and transform into a celebrated trauma survivor who would become this Joan of Arc type hero advocating for abuse victims. Subsequently, Gypsy all at once became way overexposed. She was everywhere, and the Prison Confessions Lifetime series did her no favors. In fact, this overexposure of Gypsy sparked renewed interest with true crime content creators, along with T channels, reporting and researching all elements of the Blanchard case. One viral moment happened during that initial media tour when Gypsy sat down to do an interview on the Vile Files. This now infamous interview is from January 2024. Here she talks about her co-defendant, Nicholas Godejohn.
I asked Nick for help. And how that conversation started was, he was saying that he would protect me from anyone. I said, anyone. He said, yes. I said, even my mother. He said, yes. And then the plan kind of formed from there. But he's the one that did the actual kill, not me. I can't kill anyone. That's why he's in trouble to begin with, because he's the one that did it. So when they say murder, I don't identify as that.
That one line, that Gypsy doesn't identify as a murderer, angered and incensed many, many people. Wasn't she the woman who committed matricide? Who is this Gypsy Rose Blanchard? And why is she all over the internet being hailed a queen?
Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
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 I'm finally free. You can't bring me down. I'm on a high right now.
How long do you guys think it'll take for everyone to turn on Gypsy Rose Blanchard?
For one, her stories just aren't adding up.
I think Gypsy Rose is a sociopath.
I'm the only one noticing the mass manipulation that's going on right now.
Changed my opinion on the Gypsy Rose situation in less than 24 hours.
I call bullshit on everything Gypsy Rose Blanchard has said.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard is not as innocent as everybody paints her out to be.
Y'all are forgetting the fact that Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a
Meantime, as the Lifetime series aired, Gypsy was busy getting messy on social media. Although the attention was still mostly positive through January of 2024, the tide slowly started to change. Additionally, probably the most important factor that caused many to question why Gypsy Rose was free surrounded her accomplice and co-defendant, Nicholas Godejohn. Nick Godejohn was Gypsy's internet boyfriend, who she had convinced to aid her with her mother's demise. Godejohn had been tried back in 2018 and was convicted of first-degree murder with no possibility of parole for the demise of Dee Dee Blanchard. The burning question was, why is Gypsy free while Godejohn will spend the rest of his life in prison? People learned Gypsy had been given a sweet plea deal. The Greene County prosecutor dropped the charge down to second-degree murder for Blanchard and only required her to spend the minimum time in prison, 10 years total, and she did 85% and was free in 8.5 years. And just how big was that plea deal Gypsy got? It was huge. In fact, her own attorney had to admit he really had no defense for Gypsy if she went to trial.
And we also weren't sure that there was even a defense that we could raise. If we went to trial and we lost, Gypsy would die in prison. She would spend the rest of her life behind bars.
However, Mr. Godejohn wasn't offered the same deal. The plea deals Godejohn was offered were for the maximum time. He would have to spend 30 years in prison. Nick was confused. Why was Gypsy given only 10 years and he'd have to spend the maximum of 30 years? He opted to take his chances in court. People then began watching Gypsy and Nick's interrogation videos and immediately noticed one fact that had been downplayed. At the time of the crime, Mr. Godejohn was on permanent disability due to his level 2 autism. So how is Gypsy claiming he was the master manipulator of this crime? In fact, on her Lifetime series, Gypsy admits in so many words that she set Nick up. She didn't think she would be held accountable since she didn't wield the weapon. Nick did.
I thought that I would be in trouble, but I didn't think that it would be as much as Nick, never dreaming that for my part, I could potentially spend the rest of my life in prison.
Gypsy also claimed she really wasn't to blame. You see, Nick had this dark rape murder fantasy, and that was his motive to do the crime.
He starts talking about fantasies of murder and rape and crime, and these are all things that I didn't know existed in him at first.
Because murder was something that he always wanted to do as a fantasy. And I think that I was his perfect opportunity.
Additionally, after Gypsy's interrogation, where she utterly threw Nick under the bus, she actually thought she was going home. That's right. Gypsy Rose Blanchard believed she was going back to the Pink Habitat for Humanity home in Missouri. Listen as she inquires about getting back her money and clothes.
I would like to ask some questions
Okay.
that I have.
Okay.
One, what is going to happen to me?
Okay.
And two, am I going to be sent back to Missouri? Can I get my luggage with money and my social security cards, my insurance card,
Okay.
and things like this?
Okay. The first question, I have no power or control over that because I'm not that person. I don't have that power and authority. Okay. That's still to be decided at this point. Okay. But I don't have that control, and I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. Okay. As far as your personal property belongings and stuff, right now all that is part of an investigation. Okay. So it'll probably be retained for a period of time.
As more and more information on the Blanchard case came to light, internet sleuths and content creators were getting suspicious.
Bring me down. I'm on a high right now.
There was no evidence presented at trial that showed Nick Godejohn had rape or murder fantasies. It was Gypsy who initiated the promiscuous role-playing games. She invented characters, encouraged Nick to play a 500-year-old vampire, called his dark side. In fact, when you read through the text messages between Gypsy and Nick leading up to the crime, the evidence overwhelmingly points to Gypsy as being in charge. She is also the demented and hypersexual one, not Nick. For example, here's text from the trial. Gypsy wrote, "My feelings won't change, and though I have freakouts, I always come back to you, my love. I'm so sorry I scared you." She adds, "I'll give you lots of love in the hotel, baby." Nick responds, "Well, that's reassuring, dear. I needed that." Heart emoji. He adds, "After doing what my evil side said, hun," this refers to his vampire character. Gypsy, "I reassured you on Facebook too, hun." Heart emoji. A few minutes later, Nick asks her, "Dear, will there be less of these freakouts in person?" Gypsy, "Yes, darling. When we're together, I will be a lot more relaxed." Gypsy, "Mostly because we can hug, kisses, and body language to prevent it." Clearly, many on social media began to see the truth. Gypsy had meltdowns that caused Nick grief because he is autistic and he does not understand the game she was playing on him. Then there's Gypsy, who is demented and hypersexual. Here's a clip from the trial as the detective reads out loud the text messages.
"Gypsy, will you give me my first orgasm soon, my love? Will you hear me on the bus? I desire pleasure too, hun." Defendant, "Hun, I may be naughty on the bus, just depends on the moment, depends on how naughty, hun." Heart emoji. Gypsy, "Well, I'm going to touch you," winking face emoji. "And I'm going to kiss you too everywhere."
That's just one example of many, with Gypsy Rose being utterly inappropriate. Nick refrains from this behavior. "Dear, I may give you permission to," is Nick's way of not agreeing to this wildly inappropriate behavior on the bus Gypsy wants to engage in. Even for Nick, who is an autistic man whose disability includes not understanding social cues, even he knows her suggestions go way too far. And we can offer more evidence of Gypsy's demented, inappropriate thinking. Once out of prison, Gypsy showed up during live streams on social media. She became obsessed with a content creator named Flawless Nina, who her boyfriend Ken Urker had shown a little interest in, asking Nina out for a drink. This made Gypsy big mad.
He works at a bar. He invited Nina to come for a drink.
Yeah, come. Nina, I will.
He doesn't have a girlfriend.
During one live stream, Gypsy wrote about Nina in the chat section. My 20K gold kitty is better than her 2K copper P. She added, get it? Because of the penny. Of course, Gypsy used the terms kitty and P refer to vaginas. This comment was way out of the blue. No one was discussing kitties, P's, or vaginas. This was so pathological. A little later, someone had reported the live stream and Gypsy wrote about Nina. Quote, they probably saw me talking shit about her P, LOL, end quote. Not only are these cringe level comments, they also reveal an underlying pathological issue. Gypsy is extremely inappropriate sexually. And these internet episodes of Gypsy's behavior were playing out in real time along with Lifetime series that was exposing so many inconsistencies in Gypsy's statements. In fact, this notion Gypsy pushes that Nick Godejohn was the dominant player and forced Gypsy into these BDS role-playing doesn't add up. We know from sworn court testimony that Gypsy introduced this BDSM role-playing to another man years before she ever met Godejohn. We also know how Nick really felt about BDSM. When his ex-girlfriend lamented about abuse at the hands of her current boyfriend, from a Facebook message Nick wrote to his ex. Wow, and just think, if we would have been together, you wouldn't have went down that path. The one I am with is aware of those things. However, I will have to do the unthinkable just to keep me and her safe. And I must say, please never come around me. It's that I worry for the sake of him, not you. I wouldn't ever hurt you, even to this day. But what he sounds like he is putting you through, it makes me sad. Even though it does, I can't open up about my situation, even if I wanted to. In truth, I do, but I can't. As you know, me being a Taurus, the most loyal sign in the zodiac. If I say anything, I would betray myself as much as I would betray her, and I can't do that to her. But I'll let you know, I hope you stay safe, even if you have to do things that are BDSM related. Even if you have to do things that are BDSM related, obviously this woman has confided some things her abusive boyfriend is making her do. In earlier messages, Nick urges this woman to leave, but she is staying with the man. So Nick just hopes she stays safe, even if she has to do BDSM things. This surely doesn't sound like the crazed sexual predator Gypsy accuses Mr. Godejohn of being. As more and more internet sleuths and content creators delved into the Blanchard case, the more people came to the conclusion that Gypsy Rose Blanchard was not coerced into anything and that the stories she was selling the public didn't ring true. It just didn't add up. We listened as Gypsy told us Nick Godejohn was this horrendous monster who wanted her mother to suffer.
Nick really wanted to make my mother suffer as much as possible, in a very violent and demented way.
Was that the truth? Well, take a look at this clip from Nick's interrogation.
I mean, she looked up multiple times of how to do it because she wanted to find the quickest way to do it.
Okay, so like she looked up on the internet,
Yes.
like how to tell her mom?
Yes.
Okay, and so she was looking for the easiest way to do it?
Yes, this
Okay.
way she would be in less pain. She wanted her mom's to be quick.
Then, in February 2024, Gypsy made a huge gaffe that demonstrated she was not rehabilitated at all. Gypsy lost all self-control once again and had to engage the public, who were questioning the role Nick Godejohn played in the crime. The outcome? Gypsy ended up defaming autistic people. I absolutely believe in the rights for special needs individuals. My husband is a special education teacher, but I support people that actually have real disabilities, that they can't even function in normal society without guidance, so much so that they can't even speak because they are so challenged. Those are the individuals that need to be advocated for, not individuals that claim to have a disability but know the difference from right and wrong and should be judged by a court of law based on their ability to know right from wrong, which my co-defendant does, and that's why he's still in prison. The court has every bit of evidence that the public does not. There is a reason why he is still in prison, and it is because he was well aware of his choice. Whether the public wants to believe that or not, that is why every appeal has failed. Then Gypsy clapped back at another commenter who stood up for Nick. Gypsy wrote, "Oh, so you read the text where he said he was excited and going to enjoy doing it, and that is who you want to see free? Sorry, but that doesn't sound like an innocent, autistic little buttercup to me. He is guilty and doing his time for his part, same as I did mine. That is my point." Gypsy's disturbing remark, innocent, autistic little buttercup, struck a chord with many, especially those parents and family members who have relatives with special needs.
The original person who commented was talking about Nick. So by this, Gypsy was also referencing Nick. So by your wording, I support people that actually have real disabilities. So you're saying that people with autism don't have real disabilities? That's funny because the actual definition of autism is a neurological developmental disability. And I didn't know that you were all of a sudden a medical professional or a disability examiner. But good for you. Go ahead and put that on your resume next to accomplice, master manipulator, and mastermind.
The only evidence shown at Nick's trial that even comes close to what Gypsy is alluding to is from text messages. In this exchange, you'll clearly understand Gypsy is role-playing as she uses the character names of Ruby and Candy. This exchange is from the night of the crime. Gypsy, "The shit's gonna go down tonight," Ruby said. Nick, "What does she mean by that, dear?" Nick, "Please let me know as soon as you can, hun." Gypsy, "It means it all happens tonight." Nick, "How does Ruby feel about it, hun?" Gypsy, "She keeps me numb in order to cope and survive, hun." Gypsy, "Keeping me focused." Nick, "Okay, dear. I guess she seems to be learning how to deal with him slowly then." Heart emoji. Gypsy, "For motivation's sake, bring your A game, hun. This is life with me on the line." Gypsy, "Yes, hun. Each part is a slow lover and learner. Maybe not Candy." Nick, "Babe, it's my evil side doing it. He won't mess up because he enjoys killing." Nick, "Why you say that about Candy, dear?" Gypsy, "She loves fast. LOL. So, in context, this is Nick playing the role of Victor, the dark companion to Gypsy's Ruby character. In fact, according to a supplemental police report filed by Detective Stan Hancock, he described videos Gypsy made. In one video, Gypsy is wearing her red wig and a black jacket. She first states that the video is coming from Ruby, the most evil side of her. She talks about how she likes to get into trouble and doesn't care if she gets caught and is not scared of law enforcement. She says she would do anything for Nick, including murder, rape, and assault. She talks about other sides of her named Kitty, Candy, and Bella that have different personalities and characteristics than Ruby. She talks about being good at stealing and very good at planning things. She likes to cause mischief and mayhem, but says Nick needs to let her be in charge of planning it all and mentions she had some very bad ideas. She further talks about robbery, rape, vandalism, stealing cars, etc. According to Dr. Theodore Wasserman, an expert in autism who assessed Nick Godejohn and his part in the crime, Gypsy utilized videos to instruct Nick that Ruby is her dark side who enjoys committing crimes, including murder. Gypsy produced videos to instruct Nick on every aspect, including this video showing him where her mother slept, then making a motion. Wasserman added that this was the game Gypsy taught Nick to play. In real life, Nick admitted he tried time and time again to talk Gypsy out of the demise of her mother.
At that point, there was no time
going back because from the first step I walked into the house, I knew there was no coming back. As ironic as I was trying to influence her to go with, but she never went with it. She never wanted to run away. So I couldn't get that to work.
After the little autistic Buttercup debacle, many of Gypsy's superfans made excuses for her. We needed to be patient and give her a chance, they said. That's when Gypsy showed up with Melissa Moore for an extended interview, and it went all wrong. Moore asked Gypsy about the time in 2009 when CPS came out for a visit.
I remember, Gypsy, we had discussed that CPS came to your house at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me about that. Yeah, tell us about that.
So they did come to my house, and basically they were asking me the wrong questions. So they're like, show me your arms, show me your legs. And they were checking for bruises. And at that point, my mom never hit me. They wasn't asking the right questions to me.
So Gypsy clearly claims her mother, Dee Dee, was not hitting her. Keep in mind that the CPS visit is in 2009 when Gypsy is 18 years old. Then, in this same interview, Gypsy contradicts herself and claims Dee Dee was hitting her all the time.
Her personality was bubbly and friendly to the outside world. And then what you see behind closed doors is her hitting me, calling me names, and the abuse.
Yeah. She let their guard down by just being nice. And
right,
friendly.
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Gypsy's age, from the same interview with Melissa Moore, Gypsy claims she did not know her age until the crime happened in 2015. Dee Dee Blanchard had purposely changed Gypsy's age as she neared 18 so she could continue to get benefits and so she could continue to grift children's charities.
But I remember asking you, how did you not know your age? How did your mom hide your age from you? And I remember you telling me that she never put the right number of candles on your cake. Remind me of that.
Yeah,
about how she hid your age from you.
Yeah, so, it was happening. It probably started happening when I was about 8 years old. And so I didn't ask questions as an 8-year-old. But it continued on until, the crime happened. And so I get that question a lot, actually, like, how did you not know your age? And growing up, for birthday parties and for, gatherings, my mom never put numbered candles on my cake.
However, Gypsy had previously admitted she knew her real age was 19 when she ran away to be with her 30-something-year-old lover. In fact, she made a point to tell her mother she knew she was an adult. She knew she was 19 years old in 2011. This incident of running away happened before her July birthday, when she would turn 20.
And I left her a runaway note so she wouldn't worry about me. And I told her that I knew that I was 19 and I wanted to live my own life as an independent woman. And I told her that I loved her, that it was just time for me to spread my wings and fly.
However, according to her ebook, Gypsy once again claims she did not know her real age until 2015, the year of the crime. In a footnote, it reads, "I wouldn't learn the truth about my age until 2015. By the end of February 2024, Gypsy's marriage was over. Gypsy and Ryan Anderson lasted living together all of a few weeks before Gypsy was done with him. With her stepmother Christy's help, Gypsy had contacted old flame Ken Urker behind her husband's back. Like Anderson, Ken Urker had the urge to write Gypsy a letter while she was incarcerated. The two were engaged for a time, but Urker broke off the relationship in 2019. If things couldn't get worse for Gypsy Rose, in March of 2024, one YouTube channel called the Good Wives Network dropped a bombshell on Blanchard, had obtained Blanchard's medical records, and they discovered she was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disorder back in 2011. The outcome of this information? Well, This disorder can explain almost all of Gypsy's medical procedures she claims were unwarranted. This rare disorder, called microdeletion 1q21.1, utterly shatters Blanchard's claims of medical abuse at the hands of her mother, who was inaccurately diagnosed with Munchausen by proxy. This rare microdeletion shatters the reason Gypsy claims her mom had to die. Blanchard ends up admitting she has the genetic disorder, but she refuses to speak about it in any mainstream interviews, hoping to keep the bombshell under wraps. However, enough social media users hear about it, and this alone changes many minds about Gypsy's claims of medical abuse. In fact, during one interview, her grandfather, Claude Petrie, recalls the alarms of Gypsy's breathing machine going off.
After she divorced Rod, Didi moved back with us. And at night, Gypsy had a machine on. The alarm would come on when she stopped breathing. So you had to wake her up. Once you wake her up, the machine would stop. But it was scary.
This validates that Dee Blanchard wasn't lying about Gypsy's sleep apnea. Indeed, it's highly probable Gypsy needed a breathing machine when she was younger. This coincides with Gypsy's rare genetic disorder. Symptoms include sleep disturbances, seizures, eye issues, weak muscle tone, developmental delay, intellectual disability, and psychiatric and behavioral problems. Gypsy's children all have a 50% chance of having the same rare disorder. We also know Gypsy had real eye issues. Gypsy had real health problems as a child. She now denies.
But when I looked in her earlier medical records, Gypsy had strabismus as an infant, which is when one eye or both wander. And over time, you go blind. So you have to have surgery to correct the problem.
Gypsy continues to do herself no favors on social media, and by March 13th, she's at a crossroads. Blanchard realizes public opinion has turned on her, and she turns to Flawless Nina for some advice. This encounter will lead to Gypsy launching her hate campaign against the beauty influencer and content creator that we mentioned earlier. This correspondence with Nina causes Gypsy to take some advice from the social media influencer, who tells her she needs to take real accountability for her crime. Gypsy then puts out another video which goes viral, the accountability video. This was on March 13th.
And I did some interviews, and I said some things that I feel confused a lot of people. One particular thing I said was on a podcast, and I said I didn't identify as the M-word, which we all know what the M-word is. And what I meant by that was not that I'm not branded the M-word. I know that I am, but it's not like I'm going to go to a job interview and be like, "Hi, my name is Gypsy Blanchard. I'm an M-word." You know, that's all I meant by it. I meant that.
The crazy thing is, while Gypsy is putting out this accountability video, behind the scenes, she's plotting her separation from husband Ryan Anderson. So instead of taking real accountability in her life, she is cheating on her husband. And this is the beginning of the end for Blanchard. It's too much for the public to accept. Ryan realizes Gypsy is probably with Ken when she dyes her hair blonde.
I like the blonde coming from the root.
Okay, so no more shadow root.
Right.
How does Ryan know this blonde dye job means Ken is back in the picture? Well, right before they got married, Gypsy was having second thoughts, and Ryan told her to call Ken.
Why don't you call Ken? Tell him how you feel. Try to work it out.
No. I don't want to work it out. He wants someone else, and I'll never be some blonde, fake-ass, creepy-ass bimbo that he's interested in.
That's right. Gypsy knows what Ken likes. He likes a fake Barbie blonde. Then, On April 3rd, Gypsy and Ken go public on a TikTok live showing off matching tattoos, claiming they are just friends. No one believes them. Thanks again to YouTube channel Conspiracy, we have this pivotal video.
She's not pregnant for everybody who keeps asking.
No, I'm on
She's
birth
not
control.
pregnant.
Like, what the hell?
And we have not had any intimacy. We're just hanging out. We're just total friends all the time.
I really wish the live wouldn't have frozen when he talked about how he and Gypsy haven't had any intimate moments together.
In a now deleted TikTok, Blanchard called her love story with Urker legendary. Quote, "Soulmates will always find each other," she wrote in the video, "regardless of time, distance, and circumstance." End quote. Still filming the reality series, Gypsy and Ken are caught flaunting their relationship all over social media. It causes Ryan Anderson to break down.
The matching tattoos broke my heart. It was like, did I mean anything? Did I mean anything?
Meanwhile, over on Reddit, social media users start a GRB skeptic page along with a GRB snark page. While Gypsy still has many fans who haven't delved deep into her case, there is a growing number of internet users who are convinced Gypsy should still be in prison and that her co-defendant got railroaded by the justice system. That's when another bombshell drops. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is pregnant. Blanchard claims she is totally surprised and it's so unexpected. And that husband, Ryan Anderson, is not the father. No, the father is the boyfriend she was having an alleged adulterous affair with, Ken Urker.
Pregnancy was unexpected and unplanned.
Very much so. I did not expect the pregnancy at all. I mean, obviously there was some physical symptoms that came about around that time, and then I had taken a test and it came back positive. I was very shocked.
Well, Gypsy Rose forgets about her Lifetime series, which clearly shows her father warning Ken Gypsy is trying to get pregnant.
The last thing I wanted to see. She wants a baby.
What?
I can tell, bro.
What? I don't know.
Gypsy also slips up and reveals she sought out fertility treatments. No one is buying, she is shocked, and it's so messy. The only shocking part is who is the real father. At this point, Gypsy's credibility is in the toilet. She's filed for divorce and got blasted when she asked her social media following to check out her baby registry. Yep, Gypsy e-begged her way into thousands of dollars worth of baby gear when she could afford it herself. Blanchard's repulsive behavior had many consequences. Snarky and comedic TikTok users popped up with videos like this that went viral.
There is a child in this situation. It's not his child, so I know that it's not his problem, but there is a child involved. And right now, me and him are acting very childish of our own. And we both need to grow the fuck up. Because it's not about him, it's not about me, it's not about Ken, it's about this baby. This baby is innocent in all of this. This baby didn't ask to be brought into the situation. So the grown-up thing to do would be for the both of us to stop this tit-for-tat game, and once the divorce is final, go our separate ways. Like, I'm happy in my life with Ken. We're expecting a baby. He can have a girlfriend. I don't care. I'm happy for him. But for me, it's kind of like, don't sit there and then constantly be like, she's my wife. I can talk about her all I want. She's my wife. She's my wife. She's my wife. Well, looking at that video, that's my husband. That's my husband. He's slapping some girl's ass. That's my husband. We're still married. He's still married. I'm still married. What I'm saying is 2 wrongs don't make a right. So, with that being said, this is the last time I'm talking about him on. I think the bigger picture here is there. So I'm starting to think that the days of me wearing cute little crop tops are just about over for right now. Yep. Probably I'll get back into it next summer or next winter.
Gypsy can't stand the criticism, and she has a pattern on social media. She has poor impulse control, and despite having a PR firm, well, at least at one time, along with having Lifetime's PR people who are encouraging her to ignore the negative comments, but Gypsy can't help herself.
22 freaking years old. I have a right to stand up for myself if somebody wants to talk shit to me. Now being as I am on parole right now, I can't do that. People got me by the short and curlies on that one. But best believe I won't always be on parole.
Many saw this as a threat coming from a woman who is a convicted murderer. However, Gypsy carries on. While many on social media remind the convicted felon that she has the option to get off social media and go away quietly, which would be the only option for most moms to be, especially when you're pregnant. You'd want to ensure your infamy isn't passed down to your child. However, Gypsy continues to work with Melissa Moore as another season of the Lifetime reality series starts to film. As the summer of 2024 ends, Gypsy looks forward to October when she travels with Ken to California. Gypsy's first stop is at the San Francisco University as one of the keynote speakers. The topic? The thin line between victim and victimizer. From San Francisco, she traveled to Los Angeles, where she appeared on Good Day LA to promote her book coming out December 2024. And that's where she ran into some problems. The issue revolves around Gypsy's claim that she wasn't in her right mind due to prescription pain pill addiction when she decided to get rid of her mom. During her Good Day LA interview, Gypsy changes her narrative about her drug use. She says she was using drugs the week of the crime, but it had nothing to do with her mental state.
Until recently, how you were actually addicted to painkillers, right? That was something that many people didn't know. I was wondering, at the time that the murder of your mother happened, were you under the influence of the painkillers? Were you high? Did that influence what occurred that night?
I was, during that week, abusing painkillers. However, that was not something that affected my mental state.
However, that's a total 180-degree change in her story.
Because I was high all of the time on pain pills. The side effects of those create this disconnection to reality.
She and Ken also stopped in LA to do Nick Vile's podcast. This was Gypsy's second time on the Vile Files. She and Ryan Anderson were on the podcast in January 2024. And this was the wrong move. The comment section was so brutal, with over 3,000 remarks and not one positive one for Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Ken was sitting so far away from Gypsy and looked so annoyed, and the consensus from social media users was his body language was screaming, "I'm not happy to be here, and I really don't like Gypsy." Gypsy also dropped many lies about her pregnancy once again, like it's such a surprise, etc. Then, as if Gypsy's hypocrisy couldn't become even more evident, she goes ballistic after Ryan Anderson, the man she dumped, is shown flirting with another woman. Gypsy gets trolled over her response.
Well, looking at that video, that's my husband. That's my husband. He's slapping some girl's ass. That's my husband. We're still married. He's still married. I'm still married.
Every day, More and more curious social media users are becoming aware of Gypsy's shenanigans. One issue is buried in her ebook. Gypsy admits every night after her mom is knocked out on Ambien, Gypsy surfed the internet. Gypsy acknowledges she had access to a computer every night, but never thought to look up how to get help. In fact, Gypsy also admitted Dee Dee's sisters, her aunts, continue to be very suspicious about that internet access too. Quote, like my aunts, who I speak to once a year or so, the conversations don't last very long, but they always end with, you know, you could have told us, instead of reaching out to men on Facebook, and you didn't, end quote. Gypsy's surviving parent can't see his daughter as the malignant narcissist she is. Rod Blanchard is under the delusion Gypsy had no choice but to end Dee Dee's life.
Nobody would have probably ever thought that Gypsy was capable of that, talking to her, her friends and people that knew her. But nobody's ever been in her shoes. It's simple as that.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard was sold a bill of goods that she can transform from a convicted mother murderer into an internet darling who is worthy of a loyal following, an influencer, an advocate, a hero. Melissa Moore and other sycophants are looking for a payday and are happy to bring us the Gypsy train wreck. And that might be okay if it wasn't for the fact that no one told Gypsy we are tuning in for the catastrophe. However, Gypsy on social media, getting book deals and a Lifetime series is so dangerous. Some young fool or fools might want to follow in her murderous footsteps to gain what they believe is fame and fortune. Gypsy is the first violent villain to come out of prison and be glorified as a hero by netizens. However, in just a few short months, she quickly became the most hated woman on social media in 2024. As one philosopher wrote, life will let you get away with something for a while, but sooner or later, you will pay the price. Everything you do in life causes the effects that you experience. When you get the bill, be prepared to pay the price. Thanks for watching Becca Scoops. If you got this far, please like and share. Consider subscribing. We appreciate the comments. We read them all. Thanks again.